One of my favorite Halloween decorations that we put up outside the house every year is a giant spider web and two giant fuzzy black spiders. The addition of a styrofoam skeleton that looks like it's wrapped in spider silk is the cherry on top of the creepy crawly sundae. So what does this have to do with today's episode? Well, since Halloween is just a couple days away, and in keeping with the Halloween theme that I've been rolling with all month, for this last episode of October, we're going to talk about spiders. Spiders are often feared and reviled. They freak people out. Post a picture of one on social media, and I can guarantee that in the comments, there will quickly be the helpful advice of just burning the house down. Now, if that's how you feel about spiders, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is that spiders want nothing to do with you. You're too big to be prey, and they don't want to waste their venom on you defensively if they don't have to. The bad news, well, there's probably a spider within 10 feet of you, 3 meters, right this very minute. Unless you live in Antarctica, then you're safe. No spiders there. Now, I've already covered spiders in a more general sense way back in episode 7, so I'm not going to rehash the anatomy and physiology of spiders in this episode. Instead, I want to focus on just a few species of spiders, mainly the biggest ones. I'm your host, Tim the Nature Nerd O'Hara, and this is the Dispatches from the Forest podcast. The first spider I want to tell you about is the largest spider in the world by both mass and body length, the Goliath bird eater. A member of the tarantula family, the Goliath bird eater can weigh over 6 ounces, 175 grams, and have a body length of 5 inches, 13 centimeters. Their nearly foot long or 30 centimeter leg span, though, is only the second largest in the world behind the giant huntsman spider, which I'll talk about later. Now, if you're worried about one of these massive spiders showing up in your house, most of you can relax, unless you live in northern South America, which is where the Goliath bird eater is found. There's actually several species of tarantula that are referred to as bird eaters, and you might assume that because of the name, Goliath bird eater, that it preys mainly on birds, but you'd be wrong. The practice of calling various large tarantulas bird eaters comes from an early 18th century copper engraving depicting one eating a hummingbird. Despite the spider's name, it rarely preys on birds, but yeah, note I said rarely, not never. It does happen. In the wild, its diet consists primarily of other large arthropods, worms, and amphibians. But they are an opportunistic predator, so a variety of insects and small terrestrial vertebrates are on the menu. They've been observed feeding on rodents, frogs, toads, lizards, and even snakes, in addition to birds and insects. They don't consume their prey in the open, though. They drag it back to their burrow to begin the digesting process, which means that they liquefy the insides of their prey and suck it dry. Now, unlike some other species of spider, females rarely eat the males during mating. Good news for the male spider. But that said, males still have a significantly shorter lifespan than the females. 3 to 6 years compared to the female's 15 to 25. The female lays 100 to 200 eggs, which hatch into spiderlings within 6 weeks. Now, like many long-lived animals, it takes a while for them to reach sexual maturity, 3 to 6 years. But that still means that a female Goliath bird eater can potentially lay, a whole lot of eggs in her lifetime. Like most tarantulas, Goliath bird eaters are covered in hair. In response to threats, Goliath bird eaters stridulate by rubbing bristles on their pedipalps and legs together. It sounds like this. When threatened, they can also rub their abdomen with their hind legs and release hairs, called urticating hairs, that have a severe irritating effect on the skin and mucous membranes. If you've ever come in contact with stinging nettles, you know what urticating hairs can do. Okay, on a side note, because I think it's interesting, Urticating hairs are found in about 90% of tarantula species. They aren't present when the spiderlings hatch, but they form with each consecutive molt. There are 7 different types of urticating hairs known in tarantulas, and they vary in size and shape, and particularly the distribution of barbs. Different species may possess more than one type of urticating hair. Each hair type is thought to target different enemies. Some are more effective against invertebrates, others are more irritating to mammals, although the targets for some of these bristle types are unknown. Some can be kicked off by the tarantula, others are dislodged by direct contact, like the quills of a porcupine. Now, in addition to the urticating hairs, the fangs of a Goliath bird eater are large enough to break human skin. They can be up to 1.5 inches, 4 centimeters. But that said, their venom is not really considered to be medically significant. A bite is said to be comparable to getting stung by a wasp. Generally, tarantulas, any tarantula, will only bite a human in self-defense, and often these bites are what's called dry bites, where the spider doesn't inject any venom. Like I said earlier, they don't want to waste venom if they don't have to. Producing venom is metabolically kind of expensive. Now, if it makes you feel any better, the Goliath bird eater is edible. They're part of the local cuisine in northeastern South America. It's usually prepared by singeing off the urticating hairs. You definitely don't want those in your throat, and then roasting it in a banana leaf. The flavor is described as shrimp-like. If anybody listening has ever eaten a roasted Goliath bird eater, drop me an email because I'm curious to hear what your experience was like. Okay, now let's turn our attention to the huntsman spiders. There are more than 1,000 species of huntsman spider worldwide, but boasting a leg span that can slightly exceed a foot or 30 centimeters, just slightly bigger than the Goliath bird eaters, the giant huntsman is considered the world's largest spider by leg span. Body length for the giant huntsman spider, though, is only about 1.8 inches, 4.6 centimeters, compared to the Goliath bird eater's body that's 5 inches or 13 centimeters long. The giant huntsman then has a relatively small body, but proportionally incredibly long legs. Now, the giant huntsman is found in Laos, so again, unless you're in Laos, you don't have to worry about coming across one. The giant huntsman is elusive, but it's thought to primarily live in caves, as indicated by its pale color, long legs, and special hairs on the second foot of the male that help it grip onto slippery surfaces. But a lack of reduction of the eyes, found in many other cave-dwelling spiders, suggests that the giant huntsman lives near the cave entrance. Large species of huntsman spider, like the giant huntsman, are sometimes confused with tarantulas. But huntsman spiders can generally be identified by their legs, if nothing else. While tarantula's legs are jointed vertically relative to the body, the legs of huntsmans are twisted in a way that makes the legs extend outward in a crab-like fashion. They can also move sideways in a crab-like fashion. In fact, they're sometimes called giant crab spiders for these very reasons. And their flat body and nimble legs accommodate them moving into narrow cracks in their cave habitat. In some other species of huntsman spider, these legs allow them to utilize more unique forms of locomotion. The wheel spider, a species of huntsman found in the coastal deserts of southern Africa, uses a cartwheeling motion. And another huntsman spider native to the Moroccan deserts, called the Moroccan flick-flack spider, great name by the way, does a handspring to get around. However they move though, huntsman spiders can be extremely fast. Like tarantulas, huntsman spiders, as their name implies, catch their prey by hunting rather than spinning webs. Their diet consists primarily of insects and other invertebrates, and occasionally small skinks and geckos. When feeling threatened, they'll generally make a threat display, and if the warning is ignored, they again might bite in self-defense. Females are known to be fierce defenders of their egg sacs and young, and in some species the female carries her egg sac under her abdomen, while in others they attach the egg sac to vegetation. Huntsman spiders also tend to exhibit a cling reflex if they're picked up, which makes them difficult to shake off and much more likely to bite. Now, most huntsman spiders are not medically significant to humans, the giant huntsman spider being one, although with some species there have been reports of severe reactions to bites, including local swelling and pain, nausea, headache, vomiting, irregular pulse, and heart palpitations. Now, male huntsman spiders are not as fortunate as the Goliath bird-eater males, as they are often killed by their mates. But here's something cool. Cane spider males, a tropical huntsman spider species, have recently been found to deliberately make a substrate-borne sound when they detect a pheromone left by a nearby female. The males anchor themselves firmly to the surface they're on and then use their legs to transmit vibrations from their bodies through the surface. The frequency of the vibrations and the pattern of bursts of sound identify them to females of their species, who will approach if they're interested in mating. The sound can often be heard as a rhythmic ticking, kind of like the ticking of a clock, which fades in and out and can be heard by the human ear if the environment is quiet enough. Okay, one last thing. In case you're wondering, the most venomous spider in the world, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, is the Sydney funnel-web spider, a native to eastern Australia. The venom of the Sydney funnel-web spider is highly toxic to humans and other primates, causing nausea, vomiting, headache, sweating, high blood pressure, unconsciousness, and fluid to build up in the lungs. And in a twist, males are more venomous than females, a rarity among spiders. So, yes, it can be deadly, but that said, while 30 to 40 people per year get bitten, only 13 deaths have ever been recorded. That's not 13 per year, that's 13 total. Okay, feral friends, be kind to spiders, don't get caught in a tangled web. This is where we're going to wrap up this last spooky episode of October. If you want to support the podcast, here's some ways to do that. Become a patron. It would be a treat for me, and it's no trick. Subscriptions start at just $5 a month, and with 3 paid months, you get some sweet Dispatches from the Forest merch. Find all the details at patreon.com/dispatchesfromtheforest. You can donate through PayPal using my email address, dispatchesfromtheforest@gmail.com. That's also how you can contact me if you have a question, comment, or a request for a future episode. If you just want to send a check, email me for my mailing address. Or you can donate using the Cash App and the hashtag ForestNerd. Go check out the merch store at cafepress.com/shop/dispatchesfromtheforest. Click on products, find something you like. Finally, you can follow Dispatches from the Forest on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. I'm your host, Tim the Nature Nerd O'Hara, reminding you to go outside and get dirty. The Dispatches from the Forest podcast is a production of Dispatches from the Forest and may not be used or rebroadcast whole or in part without express written permission.